My connection is pretty close. I'm her dad. Uh,
Well, why is her oh, so is that her middle name, Cyd?
yeah, which was also my father's name.
Oh,
Uh,
so it's like so
but
in her case, it's like Cyd Charisse.
exactly. He was Sid, S-I-D. Uh, and actually, little side note is he was a cop, but he was a crooked cop. And when I was 7, we went down to Miami because his partner did 5 years at Sing Sing. And we stayed at the Betsy Ross Hotel. And we came back to Brooklyn about 3 months later, and our name became Ross. And we moved to a different neighborhood, we never saw any of our old friends again. And he just hid out. This is before computers, before everything else. But my connection to Miami. But Leela Cyd, she uses that rather than use my name because Santa Barbara is a small town and I have a footprint here. So she was looking at uh, talking to my wife, and my wife would make her own clothes in the South, uh, in Aberdeen, Mississippi. And she said, "Do you have any pictures of it?" And Sissy said, "No." And I said to Leela, "Why don't we do a project where I'll photograph you every morning with what you're wearing before you go to school?" So I think it was like 742 days of high school hell. Every morning before she went to high school, I had a room that I just set up a dedicated studio and a dedicated camera. And we would just go in first thing in the morning and take a picture of what she was wearing to school. And then she would keep a diary of what it was. Um, and uh, the diary included things like, this is what I'm wearing today, and I'm going to Planned Parenthood, and I'm going to fuck Morgan if it's the last thing I do. Things dad doesn't need to read about. But then she had the bulb in her hand because her last year of high school, she just skipped high school and went to SVA in New York, and was living in New York, and that was 2001. So she was shooting herself and set up a studio in her little apartment in Brooklyn before she went to work. But it really became her project, and she showed that, exhibited it, and said the worst thing that can happen is you have all these images to show to your daughter when she's of a certain age. And they really have become a document of styles of the 90s and body image and anorexia, bulimia, changing, depression, growth, fashion. And it was a great series that she still has, and it was a great collaboration. Today, she's in southern Italy. She's a pretty interesting photographer as well. Different generation, different gender, worth a talk for you in terms of what she looks like, what she looks at in terms of a future, rather than looking at a past, and how she sees working with a camera today. Because mostly she's a big product photographer, but does a lot of hospitality images and tries to get all over the planet. I did a lot of work with my kids when I was photographing. I worked for the Getty for a decade, and part of it was working for the Getty Conservation Institute. And they would send me all over the planet to do work in China, in Honduras, in Tunisia. And I would take one of my kids or the other as my assistants. And I would be taking them from, I think, age 9 on. And they knew what I needed, they knew what I wanted, and they were very skilled at it. And my son became an educator and an educator and administrator. And my daughter has really stayed closer to my line of work. And I follow her with quite a bit of pride and, to confess, some envy at this point in terms of what she's able to do.